Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. If I speak like this, can you hear me? I'm going to try to speak a little softer because I have some throat issues. So let's see if that works. Reading from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Volume 2, text 145 and 146. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rasena yena yenante Vishakara dinatata Sevitva Krishna padabje Yo yo Vaikuntamagataha Tasya kilam tat Chimad Bhagavata Priyam Tasmai Parochita Tasmat Tattadrisadikam. Translation. Whoever comes to Vaikuntha realizes the very same service to the lotus feet of Krishna for which he had developed a taste by the end of his material life. And he realizes that service in full detail, with suitable dress, form, and so on, since each mood of devotion is dear to the personality of Godhead, and each gives pleasure to the devotee absorbed in it. Commentary. Oh, not supposed to read commentaries. I'm going to be part of the commentary. I'll read the commentary. The whole one. It's not long. The bodies of some Vaikuntha residents resemble those of sages and other humans, or monkeys, demons, or whatever, but do not resemble any of the human-like or sage-like forms of the Lord, such as Lord Ramachandra or Lord Kapila-dev, nor any expansion or incarnation the Lord accepts in other species. The unusual forms that some Vaikuntha devotees accept are explained in the current 2 verses. While practicing devotional service in their previous material lives, those devotees neared the perfection of love of God and so began to display symptoms of that perfection. Those devotees varied in their individual moods or rasas and varied accordingly in the forms of the Lord upon which their devotion focused. And when those devotees achieved Vaikuntha, they brought with them their individual rasas. In each case, no matter how unusual the form of devotion was, it gave pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Because those individual moods pleased the Lord, they were attractive also to the devotees expressing them, who therefore did not want to give them up. When the Supreme Lord so desires, some of his devotees imitate the material activities of Indra, Chandra, and other demigods, even in Vaikuntha. After all, Everything that exists can be found in Vaikuntha in a purified form. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksha Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhungum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurundina Taranam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvashesha Shanyavari Paschachade Shatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before I begin, something just came to my mind that happened last night after my class last night. Yesterday, I told the devotees that I'm having some, it's not serious, but some issues with my throat. And the doctor told me that I should try to speak less. And while I'm taking some medication. And right after class, I sat down to have some hot soup. I turned on Prabhupada, and the first thing Prabhupada said, very first thing, he was talking about from the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. Right now I'm listening to 6th canto, 1st chapter, about the process of atonement. And he was explaining the nature of what is the value of atonement if we just simply do the same thing. But the first thing he said when I turned on the recording was, he was giving that as an example. He says, just like if the doctor tells you, do this, take this medicine, and you don't do it, then what can you expect? It was the first thing. And as you can imagine, it was like, it really hit me. So, because nothing else, it was the first thing that came out of Prabhupada's mouth as soon as I turned on the recorder, because the recorder always starts at the same place that I left off. So, bearing that in mind, if at some point I feel that I should stop, I'm going to stop, just so that you know. Of course, Prabhupada went on to explain what is the value of doing such things. He said, if you don't listen to the doctor, what can you expect? So he said talk less. He didn't say don't talk at all. So I'm still following. I'm going to talk quieter, and I'll probably give a shorter class. And I'm going to drink some hot water. So, last class, we talked about demigods, and how in Vaikuntha there are demigods who are, or should I say, there are devotees, Vaikuntha residents, who have bodies of demigods. And they are associates of the Lord, and we also explained a little bit, we gave some references as to how somebody may perfect their life by worshiping the demigod in the proper attitude, and by worshiping the demigods in the proper attitude, then with the proper attitude, not for any material gain, but to achieve the favor of Krishna, gradually one can come to the platform of devotion to Krishna, because he sees them as representatives of the Lord, and not asking for anything from them for their own personal desires, but simply as to attain the favor, as we said, of the Lord. So we spoke about that in last class, and today the verse goes on and explaining how the devotees realize the same service that they were performing previously, before they achieved Vaikuntha. And not only the same service, but with a suitable dress, form, and so on. All full details. Commentary simply says that the devotees don't achieve a form which is exactly like the Lord, but as we explained before, they achieve a form which is like Lord Ramachandra, the one that achieves a human-like form, worships Lord Kapila, he receives a form of like a sage, and so on. And then forms of demigods also can be obtained. And here in the commentary, it is that for today's verse, that because those individual moods pleased the Lord, they were attractive also to the devotees expressing them, who therefore did not want to give them up. When the Supreme Lord so desires, some of his devotees imitate the mundane activities of Indra, Chandra, and other demigods, even in Vaikuntha. After all, everything that exists can be found in Vaikuntha in a purified form. I wanted to speak a little bit more about this. There are some references I wanted to read. One of them, first of all, I want to read a quote from Srila Prabhupada. And this quote, Prabhupada states that, I didn't give this to you, Sankashandatai, sorry. It's a short quote. Prabhupada says, in the material world, the influence of time destroys everything, but in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, there is no influence of time or of the demigods, because there are no demigods in the Vaikuntha planets. Here, our activities are controlled by different demigods. Even if we move our hand and leg, the action is controlled by the demigods. But in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, there is no influence of the demigods or of time. Therefore, there is no question of destruction. So, I just wanted to emphasize the point, this in no way does contradict anything that we've been listening to with respect to the existence of the demigods in Vaikuntha, because Prabhupada is saying there are no demigods as there are in the material universe in Vaikuntha, which is a fact. Everyone in Vaikuntha is an eternal associate of the Lord. The demigods of the material world, in the material universes, in the upper planetary systems, they are not eternal associates of the Lord. But in Vaikuntha, there are demigods who have the same forms as those demigods, which are, or should I say, they're associates, not demigods. There are parishads, associates of the Lord, who have the same form as the demigods in the material universe. They're not demigods. They're associates. So, and also the other point that Prabhupada makes, the demigods' function in the material universe is overseeing the various affairs of the universe, such as Surya, Vayu. They have their particular roles to oversee the sunlight, the air, Indra, the rain. But demigods, or the associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha, they don't take part in these affairs in Vaikuntha. What are they doing? They're eternal associates who have the same form of the demigods. Why? Because the Lord likes variety and he likes to be surrounded by different companions in Vaikuntha. And this is a quote from the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. This quote states, "The cowherds and the Yadavas are associates of the Lord in his pastimes. Other associates include demigods, like Brahma, Indra, and the sons of Kuvera, sages like Narada, and others, such as demons, Nagas, and Yakshas." And in the commentary, pastimes are not exciting without companions with whom to share them. Therefore, Krishna's eternal Parshadas, who are as intimately connected with him as the limbs of his body, are eternally involved in his Leelas. In his eternal abode, even the demons and others who interact with Krishna are purely spiritual persons, as are Durga and the other demigods of Vaikuntha. As stated earlier, Nayatra Maya, in the spiritual world, there is no illusion created by Maya. It is solely for his pleasure that devotees in Krishna's transcendental abode act in the roles of demigods and demons. So that's what they're doing there. That's what they're doing there. Solely for his pleasure, because it's part of his variety of companions that he likes to have in association. In Vaikuntha, they have no functions in terms of rain, sunlight, air, no function whatsoever. They're just his associates. Now, there's another very interesting verse and purport, and this is in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this verse, and we'll explain, it's 11:27-29. Durgam Vinayakam Vyasam Vishvaksenam Gurun Suran Sve Sve Stane Tvabimukan Pujayat Prokshani Dibi. With rituals such as Prokshana, one should worship Durga, Vinayaka, Vyas, Vishvaksena, the spiritual masters, and various demigods. All these personalities should be in their proper places, facing the deity of the Lord. This verse is described worship of the Lord, and it includes worship of Durga. Vinayaka is Ganesh, Vyas, Vishvaksena, and various demigods. And then the purport, this purport's from the 11th canto, and is taken from a commentary from Srila Jiva Goswami. He explains that who are these persons who are being worshipped? He specifically states that they're not the material demigods. They are the same associates in Vaikuntha, and a Vaishnava who worships the Lord and who worships these associates of the Lord meditates on them in this way, in their eternal forms in the spiritual world, not as demigods in the material world. Because those who worship demigods in the material world, generally, again, the same point as we discussed, they worship them for some material boon. Let me read the commentary. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Ganesh and Durga mentioned in this verse are not the same personalities present within the material world. Rather, they are eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. In this world, Ganesh, the son of Lord Shiva, is famous for awarding financial success. And the goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, is famous as the external illusory potency of the Supreme Lord. The personalities mentioned here, however, are eternally liberated associates of the Lord who reside in the spiritual sky, beyond the material manifestation. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes from various Vedic literatures to prove that the name Durga may also indicate the internal potency of the Lord, who is non-different from him. The external or covering potency of the Lord expands on this original Durga. The Durga of the material world is called Mahamaya. Durga of the material world called Mahamaya assumes the function of bewildering the living entities. Thus, a devotee should not fear becoming polluted by worshipping the Durga mentioned here, who has the same name as illusion, but rather the devotee must show respect to these eternal servitors of the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. Now this quote is referring to, as the purport explained, a commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. And Srila Jiva Goswami was specifically quoting a verse saying that it's necessary to perform one's duties. It's in the Bhakti Sandarbha. He says, he quotes the Narada Pancharatra. He says, O Narada, even a liberated soul who because of an emergency or a calamity does not perform his ordinary duties is greatly at fault. Therefore, every wise man should carefully perform even the most ordinary duties until the time his material body perishes. What was he talking about? He's talking about the duties of various forms of worship, including worship of the demigods. And but he specifically states that the demigods being worshipped by Vaishnavas are not the demigods of this material world. They are the Durga of the spiritual world, the Ganesh of the spiritual world, and all other demigods who are associates of the Lord. They are given their proper place in worship, and the devotee performs his worship with the understanding that he is simply giving the remnants offered to the Lord to these eternal associates of the Lord. And in this way, by meditating in this way, this is another way by which one becomes Krishna conscious. Of course, we should not think that we have to perform such worship. But sometimes we do see people who do perform such worship, and they're very attached to it. And because they're very attached to it, they can't give it up. I'll give you an example. Decades ago, I used to preach in a place where demigod worship was very, very prominent. Very, very prominent. It was, anyways, it was pervasive. And many of those people, they came to Krishna consciousness And although and maybe some of you may have seen it also, they come to Krishna consciousness and they have Radha and Krishna in front, but if you look in the back of the altar, everybody's there. Why? Because they can't give it up. They can't give it up. Everybody's there. Durga's there, Lord Shiva's there, Ganesh is there. Because they're afraid that, if I just worship Krishna and I neglect, then maybe somebody can't leave anybody out. So even sometimes we see people come to Krishna consciousness, but at the same time, they keep everyone there. So, not that we have to add them in our worship, but we should help others and help them to understand, yes, Ganesh is an eternal associate of the Lord in Vaikuntha. Durga is an eternal associate of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And there are many, even Vayu, Surya, they're all eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. You should meditate on them as eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And you should share with them the remnants of your offering to the Supreme Lord. And in this way, with this understanding, gradually they may actually become fully Krishna conscious and no longer fearful of slighting the demigods, thinking that maybe the demigods will punish them. Of course, we know our philosophy is such that we know that by watering the root of the tree, all the branches, the twigs, leaves are simultaneously nourished. We don't have to satisfy the demigods. Devarshi putaptanenam pritrinam nankinkaro nayamani charajan. As also explained in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, that anyone who completely surrenders to Krishna, he is no longer a debtor to anyone, not the sages, nor the forefathers, nor the demigods, nor people in general. He's no longer indebted to them if he fully surrenders to Krishna. Of course, we quote this verse sometimes, and devotees can abuse this verse also and think that, oh yes, I'm fully surrendered to Krishna, I don't have to care about anyone else. And we've seen the consequences of such a mentality. But this is for those who fully surrender to Krishna. So, in the same way, these points are being brought to light to help us understand that the demigods are, should we say, the associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. They assume various bodies of demigods. And Srila Jiva Goswami even states that the demigods in the material universe, they worship those forms in Vaikuntha. And not only do they worship those forms, but they aspire to achieve those forms after perfecting their services in the material universe. They aspire to return to the spiritual world and to achieve those forms who are eternal associates of the Lord. So therefore, today, it is stated in the verse, when the Supreme Lord so desires, some of his devotees imitate the mundane activities of Indra, Chandra, and other demigods, even in Vaikuntha. After all, everything that exists can be found in Vaikuntha in a purified form. Excuse me. I'm finished with that point, and I will not go any further. I want to move along with verses as I mentioned last time. We're going to try to catch up slowly. Text 147. In Vaikuntha, each devotee sees the Supreme Lord, Sri Narayan, in the form of the particular Lord he worships, with suitable complexion and other qualities. Te cha savetra Vaikunthe Sri Narayanam Ishwaram tat tad varnaradi yuktatma deva rupam vichakshate. Text 148. Purvavad bhajananandam prapnuvanti navam navam sarvadapya sarvadapya parichinam vaikuntetra visheshataha. The same kind of ecstasy these devotees previously enjoyed in worshiping the Lord, they continue to relish here in Vaikuntha. They obtain it as a unique, uninterrupted, unceasing bliss, newer and newer at every moment. Text 149, 150. Okay, ye tva sadharanai sarvai, purvaya atma manoramai, parivarad bir yuktam, nijam ishtataram prabhum, sampashyanto yata purvam, sadaive chanti sevatum, te tyanta tat tan nishtantya, kashtavanto mahashayaha. As before, these devotees still see their own worshipable Lord with all his unique features they found charming. His same entourage and everything else, these devotees, each in his favorite mood, constantly hope to serve him. They are indeed the wisest of saints, for they have each attained the final perfection of their own faith. Text 151. Te chasyaiva pradesheshu tadrisheshu paradishu tataiva tadrisham natam bhajantas tanvate sukam. Thus they worship their favorite forms of the Lord in the places where he resides, his opulent cities and other abodes, and expand the ocean of happiness. Commentary. The Vaikuntha kingdom has many confident... Oh no, no commentary. Hare Krishna. Sorry. This is specifically just speaking about the various abodes or regions of Vaikuntha that the eternal associates of the Lord achieve by their previous worship. Some of them go to the region where Lord Ramachandra is worshipped. That is spoken about in the commentary. Some go to Vaikuntha, some go to Dwarka. Text 152. Ye chaikatara rupasya priti nishta bhavantina avishesha grahastasya yat kinchid rupasevakaha. Devotees not exclusively attracted to one form of the Lord, those whose affection is not focused on a single appearance of his, are ready to serve him in any form. Short commentary. Some devotees are attracted to all the Supreme Lord's appearances. Those devotees serve any one form of the Lord of Vaikuntha without any preference as to which. Other devotees are attracted to serving 2, 3, or several particular forms. Text 153. Ye cha Lakshmi patir ashta ksharadi manu tatpara tehi sarve svadehante vaikuntam imam ashritaha. Some devotees dedicated themselves to the 8-syllable mantra or some other mantra for the husband of Lakshmi, and when those devotees left their material bodies, they all obtained the shelter of this Vaikuntha. When we spoke about this last time, we spoke about examples given in the Bhagavatam, such as Dhruva Maharaj, who was given the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, He chanted that mantra in the execution of his worship, and Dhruva Maharaj, he achieved Vaikuntha, but of course his Vaikuntha he achieved was unique in that he achieved the Vaikuntha which is manifest in this universe. He was given as the pole star, as a place where he was able to attain by his chanting of his mantra and also by his method of worship. The other example we gave was the example of Ramanujacharya, who was given the mantra from his spiritual master Gosti Purna. It was the 18-syllable mantra. No, he was given the mantra Om Namo Narayanaya. That's right. He was given that mantra. And of course, there's the whole story. When Gosti Purna gave him that mantra, he told him, and he agreed to give him that mantra on one condition, that he would never give it to anyone else, never tell anyone else. And then upon receiving that mantra, he went out and stood on the top of a building and began calling all the local people to please come. And he told, I have something very wonderful, very dear. Please listen to me. Everybody, please come closer. More of you, please come. I want to share something very special with you. And all the people gathered from around, and then he said, I want to give you this very special, wonderful mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. And he gave the mantra, although his spiritual master requested to not give it to anyone. And when the word got back to his spiritual master of what he had done, his spiritual master was extremely angry, and he rebuking his disciple. I told you that you should not give this mantra. It was a special mantra. It's not to be given to anyone except yourself. Why have you done this? And he said to his spiritual master, he said, please forgive me, but you said that anyone who chants this mantra can go to Vaikuntha. So if I have to go to hell and everyone else goes to Vaikuntha, I'm ready to go to hell for disobeying the orders of my spiritual master. But let everyone else go to Vaikuntha by chanting this mantra, and that is why I gave it to them. And he gave that as his explanation to Gosti Purna. And then when Gosti Purna heard the whole explanation from Ramanujacharya, then he fell at his feet. He said, forgive me. He said, I have offended you. He said, you are like my spiritual master. And he actually completely forgave him, understanding the depth of his compassion for others. So that was another mantra, the Om Namo Narayanaya, which is a mantra by which one can achieve to Vaikuntha. And this verse says that some devotees dedicated themselves to the 8-syllable mantra or some other mantra for the husband of Lakshmi. And when those devotees left their material bodies, they all obtained the shelter of this Vaikuntha. And I think my voice has come to an end. I'm not going to push it. I'm going to remember what Prabhupada said to me when I turned on the recording yesterday. Forgive me. We will end class here. And hopefully if I do it today, then I'll be able to return tomorrow without any consequences. No japa. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki.